Okay, let's get going. Welcome everybody. Good to see everyone back on track with me here. So last week we had a shir that was not on the Chochom and Tam. We spoke about the Indian of Hispoidus turning to Torah into Tefillah. It's a very special shir. But now we're getting back to the story, back to our hero, the Chochom and Tam. We are going to be in the Garden of Wisdom on page 297. And we'll be hearing also from Rav Kivak, like we usually do. And there's going to be a few things this time, a few amazing, important points. A couple things that I think are a little bit difficult. So let's get into it. Because when we see difficult things, we don't ignore them or run away from them, which is exactly one of the points that we're going to look at today. Rather, we go in with humility and we try to figure out how to understand and how to move forward with tamimus, with simplicity. So let's see where we're at here. So we're at this place in the story now where after a whole lifetime almost, the Chochom and the Tam are reunited and they meet again. At this point, the Tam has gone from being a simple shoemaker who was not so bright, and he has grown to become a very worldly, wise, learned person who really is like, the second in command to the king. He's mamish grown in an amazing way. And as we said before, the whole time when the Tam was always trying to figure out the next place to go and how he could build up his ego and how he could show everybody that he's better than them, the Tam was every day just being simple and good and doing good things and focusing on what's in front of him. And through that, he was able to build his keli, his vessel, larger and larger, until it got to the point where Hashem filled it in with all kinds of blessing, monetary, spiritual, intellectual, and gave him all these tremendous gifts. And one of the main points of this story, of course, is that by being good and simple and focusing on what's in front of us, that's the way we expand our vessels and receive from Hashem. So that's the Tam. But the Chochom keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And he gets more egotistical, more caught up in his own crazy fantasy world. And at this point, he's very, very, very far away. And the last thing that happened was he came to and saw in this town, the big city where the Tam is the minister, and he found out that there's a Baal Shem there, a big tzaddik, and he began to ridicule this tzaddik in front of other people. And then he got into a fight with the soup kitchen guy because he was making fun of the tzaddik, and this tzaddik is beloved by everybody, Jew and non-Jew and everybody. And so the soup kitchen guy starts beating on him and sends him out of the soup kitchen. So the Chochom now is coming to the Tam, who's now the minister in charge of the whole place, because he wants him to adjudicate a case against the soup kitchen guy who beat him up. He wants to sue him, and he wants the Tam to make a judgment for him. That's where we find ourselves. By the way, you see this mug in Breslov Burns of Fire is one of the titles of our YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. Mugs are available on my friend Ariel Weisberg's Breslov store, and we'll share the address for the store in the comments or in the description of this video. Okay, let's go. Welcome, Nancy. So, meeting once again is the title of this chapter. And the clever one came before the minister, and as soon as the minister saw him, he recognized that this was his friend, the clever one. But the clever one did not recognize him because of his dignified appearance. Immediately the minister began speaking to him. You see what my simplicity has brought me to, and what your cleverness has brought you to. right? So it's interesting that, and how does he answer? He answers back and he says, clever one answered, as for the issue of you being my friend, the simple one, we will talk about that later. So this is the first step today. So first of all, Arish points out over here that this is the second time that he's met the Tam like this, and where the Tam has sort of, in a nice way, kind of admonished him or tried to help him. The first time is when he was miserable, and the Tam said, like, what's going on with you, brother? I'm very happy. I'm simple, and because of that, I'm happy. Why don't you get on this train of simplicity, and you're going to be happy also? And the Chochom shut him down. And he was like, this guy? No. He's simple. He's delusional. I'm going to become the smartest, the most respected, the most honored person in the world, and then I'll be happy, right? So that one, maybe, if we didn't know all the stuff that we've learned so far, we might think that I get it. I get what he's saying. This guy's just a simple nobody. He's happy because he doesn't know any better, right? He's too simple. But now, he's come to a place where he's lost everything. He's now a pauper himself. He has nothing. And he's being cast out by everybody. And he comes to this place to see his old friend, and his old friend now is a great minister and is worldly and knowledgeable and knows languages and knows sciences and everything, and he's a close relationship of the king, right? At this time, at least, maybe now he can look and see, oh, you know what? Maybe I missed something. Maybe I've been doing something wrong. Maybe there's something I can do, I can learn from this guy that's going to help me, right? So, but what does he do instead? He says, as for the issue of you being my friend, the simple one, we will talk about that later. What is he doing?
Diminishing him.
He's diminishing him, but he's just changing the subject. Right? He's faced with something, with truth, and he's changing the subject. So listen to what he says over here. The clever one still refused to acknowledge the truth. By doing so, he'd be admitting to fault. That he can't do. He refused to see his blatant lack of happiness as a deficiency. He became the one full of deficiencies, and the simple one became a pillar of his success. Since the clever one lusted to be right no matter what, he never acknowledged that his inane ideologies were wrong and that someone else was right. He's just changing the subject. He can't deal with it. So he's pushing it aside, right? So he says over here on the next page, and this is an important point. This is like the first take-home point of today that we all know, but let's articulate it again. We never saw the simple one trying to change a subject that was uncomfortable for him, right? He never fooled himself. He knew that the shoes he produced were poor in appearance, fit, and quality. He knew he had much room to improve, but meanwhile, he accepted his current lot in life with joy. His joyous mindset proved to be a springboard for personal growth and advancement. So, these last two sentences are very important. So let me ask you this. What do you think about when someone says, I'm happy where I am? Yay or nay? Good or not good? I'm happy where I am. Good?
Well,
I say maybe I'm not sure over here.
It depends. Accept where I'm at is different than I'm happy where I'm at. Well, maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's good.
Well, right now it's where I'm at.
But then you don't want
I like to recognize
you
one.
need to grow.
Okay, so Nancy's making a good point over here.
Yeah.
Right? So on the one hand, it sounds like we want to be happy where we are, but on the other hand, I also want to grow.
So you need both.
Right? So what am I saying over here? When a person says, so I think it's partly due to the inflection with which I said the statement.
Right. What do you mean?
Right?
All right.
So if someone comes and asks you and says, maybe, or I don't know if this is whatever the conversation would be, maybe, you want to come out and learn some beautiful things with us that can help with personal growth. Right? And a person can say, nah, I'm happy where I am.
No.
Right? I remember one person saying this to me. A person listened to a shir one time, and they said to me afterwards, yeah, it was very interesting. And it was very interesting, if personal growth is something that you're interested in. And I was like, this was an non-Jew. And I was like, could a Yid ever say such a thing?
Unfortunately,
If you're interested in personal growth, like what do you mean if I'm interested in personal growth? Of course I'm interested in personal growth, right? If we're not growing, what are we doing? Right? We gotta always be moving and always growing. This is what it's all about. Anyway.
But it's worded differently. You're happy where you are, but per se,
Yes.
says a happy person is
Right.
one who's happy with this.
Yes,
lot in
hot and
life.
happy with his lot in life, exactly.
but we always
So there's another way of saying it.
Different
There's another inflection,
Right.
right? Where I can say, I am happy where I am, right? Not with I'm happy where I am. No, I'm
Not
happy
finished, but
where I am. And, I have aspirations.
exactly.
And I want to grow.
Right,
This is the take-home point about this idea. It's not a stira. It's not a contradiction to be happy where we are, but to have aspirations and to always be trying to grow. There's nothing, it sounds to people like these two things can't go together. What do you mean you're happy where you are? You're happy where you are. We're just so trained to hear those words and to think that means that I don't want to move and I don't want to change. Right? It's so wrong. Right? We can have aspirations and we should want to grow, we should want to change. But still, we can say with no contradiction whatsoever, I'm very happy where I am. I'm very happy right today. I'm still going to learn. I'm still going to grow. I'm still going to move. But here today, I'm happy. I can just be happy and want to change also. Those things are not a contradiction, right? Sandra used a word that kind of helps us over here,
We accept it.
which is to accept, and just also to have humility, and to know that this is what life is all about, right? I assume that I'm going to be continually growing and continually changing.
Amen.
So therefore, today is not going to be my best, right?
Right.
And that's okay. I'm gonna get better, yeah. But there's no reason to be upset about today. Today Hashem gave me my life. He gave me the opportunity to be here, to be besimcha, to do good things, to do mitzvahs, to be nice, right? I could do that today, even though I know I'm gonna be higher later on. Doesn't change, doesn't take away one from the other, anything whatsoever, right? I can be happy where I am and still desire to grow and change.
And
Right.
that is the key. That is the key.
It's like let's say you go swimming, right? And you're all wet, and you come out of the pool, you're soaking wet and you're cold, right? But you just had a great time, or you're in the pool and you're all wet, right? So are you enjoying the pool? If you like that kind of thing, of course you are.
Lake.
You're having it in the lake, right? The waterfall.
I do like.
Whatever, you're having a great time. You're happy, right? But you don't want to be wet for the rest of your life, right? You know that soon you're going to get out and dry off and go and do something else, sit by the campfire maybe, right? But it doesn't change the fact that I'm happy being wet right now,
Then jump back in.
right? Mashenken, if you're out in the rain and you're soaking wet, right? You don't want to be wet like that, right? But you can have a separate mindset. Right? But you could be happy in the pool, and if you're really holding in this type of level, you could even be happy when you're out in the rain, soaking wet. You can say, "Oh, okay,
When it gets
this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what Hashem gave me now. Thank you."
It's a mood.
Yeah,
When it gets dark at 4:30.
that's right. It's a muna. I'm happy where I'm happy here. Do I want to be wet out in the cold of all my life? No, I want to go home and be warm. But right now, I'm here. I might as well. Maybe I'll. Sing that song, Singing in the Rain, dance around a little bit, I don't know. Whatever it's going to be.
With the sunny nights.
Right, so I can be happy where I am and also desire to change and to grow. Not a stira. Important point. So he says also here another very, very, very important point, which is that a person's stature is measured by his ability to admit a mistake or shortcoming. Right? An individual of stature is capable of admitting to a mistake, correcting faulty behavior, and moving forward. Right? So, we can't stress this enough how important it is, right? It's just a simple, these are two simple, important ideas. Total simplicity, right? That we have to always be ready and willing to hear, to accept, to understand things about ourselves that are not good, that I need to change, right? But once again, we don't need to be upset. We can hear and we can listen and we can say, okay, I need to work on this. But if I'm like the Chochom here, and as soon as something is said to me that's threatening to me, I just right away want to change the subject. I don't want to deal with it. Right? So what's going to change and what's going to grow in me then? Absolutely nothing. If I'm not ready to listen and to admit that I have shortcomings, I'm never going to grow. I'm never going to change. I'm going to be stuck in this rut forever. It's a terrible place to be. So he said to him, and we'll do a few concepts with Rav Arush here before we move to Rav Kivak. Said to him, "For now, give me a judgment against the one who assaulted me." So the simple minister asked, "Why?" He answered, "Because I spoke against the Baal Shem, that he is false and a great deception." Right? So this is what he said to him. The simple minister responded, "You are still holding on to your clever ideas. You see, you said that you could easily come to my level, but that I could not come to yours. See now, I have already reached your level, as I said before, and you still haven't come to mine. I see that it's much more difficult for you to reach my level of simplicity." So, what do we see that he did over here? And this is another very, very special characteristic of the Tam. He says on page 301, if you want to see it in the middle, "True humility is when one refrains from using force or strength, particularly in a situation where he could easily subdue the other individual if he desired. In all his ways, the simple one continued to be a model of true humility. The higher he ascended the ladder of success, the more remarkable his humility." So meaning what? This Chochom came to him now and told him that he's been running around degrading the tzaddik of the city, who he's close to. The tzaddik, the Baal Shem of the city. A very holy, special person. And he's been running around degrading him. And it upset the Tam a little bit, which we'll see about in a bit. But what did he do? He didn't go crazy. He didn't start screaming at him. He didn't start beating him up. Right? He said in a calm way, he's trying to help him still. And he said, "Listen, are you still you're still going to be like this? Look what happened to us. You said that I could never become wise like you, and that you could become simplicity like me in a blink of an eye. Here we are, 20 years later, however long it's been, and now I've gotten beyond you in wisdom, and you still have not got simplicity yet, right? What's going on? What's going on? I feel like this statement almost feels like something that a parent would say to a child, who wants to help them. It's like, where?
So we're forever learning.
Yeah. Like where have you gone wrong? Like, get on board. I'll help you. He wants to help him. And the next thing he's going to do, he's not going to push him away. He's going to invite him he's going to give him clothing and invite him to stay for dinner. He's going to feed him. He's trying to help him. He's trying to, right? He's being a good person. So, and that's a sign of humility, because what does a person of ego do when they are threatened by some type of ideology that they feel threatened by?
You push the other.
It goes against them. They begin to become reactive, right? We stand up. We get our I don't remember what the term is.
It's like you.
Yeah, we get our backs up against the wall, and we're ready to fight or flight, right?
Yeah.
We're ready to go. And so we start fighting, and we start, right? Like, it's like, imagine someone came in and into our room right now here and started berating Rabbi Nachman.
Yeah, you put others
Right?
down to lift yourself.
So what we do? We'd be angry, and we'd maybe not.
Yeah.
Right? So this is the way that someone of ego reacts to such a situation. Right? They react, they fight, they get angry, and they push back. What does he do over here? The exact opposite. He's not threatened.
Right.
He doesn't feel like he needs to argue and fight back. This is such an important lesson. So important. Right? Like, imagine how many times would you be saved from a terrible, terrible day or week or month or even worse
If we don't react.
if you just, with a spouse or with a child or with something like this, right? If you just were able to hold back and listen and be like, okay,
What's your opinion?
maybe I can still say some things that might help, but I don't need to fight, and Well, why? It's going to be okay. I'll do my part. Hashem will help, and we're going to get to the right outcome. But there's no need to go crazy, right? So it's interesting. I'll tell you something. I'm a normal person. I'm not a big tzaddik, right? But there's one guy who I know who likes to come and be around, come to Verasuda every once in a while. And he says to me that I'm the only person who's ever showed him love and accepted him.
So sad.
Right? So this guy,
You are sad.
I'll tell you, he's got issues. And he tends to speak and speak in a way.
He wants a reaction.
No, he doesn't want. He has maybe a little bit of an issue, but he speaks in a way that people can't take, and he says things sometimes that feel like attacking and feel threatening, but it's not. He has an autism issue, right?
Yeah.
And sweet, wonderful person, right?
They don't connect.
But yes, and he doesn't. And sometimes he speaks loud or too much, whatever the situation is, and so this is I think what happens is that he goes to other places and he speaks in this way and says something that's maybe not quite socially acceptable, and it's a little too loud, too much, and people get upset with him, and they start pushing him back, and then they push him away, and then they don't invite him back, right? So, like I said, I'm no tzaddik, but I listen to him and I imagine how he feels, where he's coming from. What? I don't need to get upset. I don't need to stand up with my back against the wall, right? It's okay. We'll hear and we'll talk and we'll work it out, right? Or not. That's just the way it is. And so through this, we're able to have a nice experience together. We're able to share something together that wouldn't be there otherwise.
Sandra?
Right? So, did you say, is it Sandra? It's not Sandra.
No, Sandra's right here. Here.
So you hear, this is like a really important point. This is something, and I'll tell you, it's so powerful in all of our relationships. Like if in a husband and wife relationship, especially, and in a parent-child relationship, any kind of relationship, even in a work relationship, if we could hear something that threatens us or that feels like an attack, and just remember, for that moment, Hashem runs the world. It's okay. I was talking about this before you guys got here. Don't worry. Right? It's okay. This doesn't affect. This is Hashem's taking care of me. I'm gonna do my part. I'm gonna be a good person. I'm gonna do what I have to do. I don't have to get reactive and angry. I don't have to do that. Right? That's Chochom behavior. That's not Tom behavior. The Tom hears what this guy is saying. He's attacking the Baal Shem, his close spiritual advisor, and he just is okay. He just says, "Okay, listen, it's not right what you're doing, and look, you could have been much better than this, and I can help you, right? Come for dinner. The next thing he does is chesed. Come for dinner. I'm going to give you clothing, and let's talk. Let's grow. Let's grow together." This is what he says. That's what the book says. Right? So it's a very different world than just getting into an argument and fighting and feeling attacked and feeling threatened. It's a different universe. Amish. This is the world of the Tam versus the world of the Chochom. What a sweet existence. So let's go a little bit weiter. During the meal, they began to speak with each other. The clever one began to prove his above-mentioned notion that there is no king at all. The simple minister snapped at him. What? I myself have seen the king. Right? So it's interesting. I want to point out here. He says over here that hold on a second. The clever one answered jokingly, "Do you know with certainty that the one you saw was really the king? Are you sure that he, his father, and his grandfather were all kings? How do you know that he is the king? People told you he's the king, but they deceived you with falsehood." Right? Like, what's he doing? He's mamish losing it.
Still in denial.
He's losing it. He's going crazy. The clever one's lies and denial, while disgustingly trying to destroy any world of truth, is reminiscent of Amalek.
Doubt.
Ooh, Amalek. Remember, Amalek is the gematria of Suffolk, which is doubt. Who cast doubt on everything and injected the venom of heresy in the hearts of the unsuspecting. This is what he's doing over here. 1 second. Yep. So it's we have to know this that you know we work hard, all of us here, to try and reach truth, and we really try and we think about it, right? And we put effort into it, and we have to know that this stuff happens, right? People come and they say things like this, but do you hear what he's saying, right? He's saying crazy things, and he's trying to like I mean he's not wrong. Do you know his father? Did you meet his father? Was he like? How do you know he's the king? People told you he's the king. Maybe it's falsehood. Did you see his father, his grandfather, his great grandfather? Like he's not incorrect in what he's saying, but it's insanity. But still, he's the type of he's sowing doubt. He's right. He's trying to knock him out with doubt. But he can't do it. So he said something over here. Now this is one of the parts of today that's a little bit. It's a little bit kind of difficult. Like I don't know if I would say this over here, but I guess it's true. So the Garden of Wisdom here on page 304. He says like, what's going on here? Why is it that this happens? That people can so strongly go against truth to the extent where they're being crazy already, right? Like they're saying crazy things. How can he do it? How can he do it over here? He says, why don't people acknowledge the obvious? The answer is simple. If by acknowledging the truth, they will be obligated to cast away certain bad habits and bodily urges, and they don't want to, then they will continue to deny the truth. Right? And he says, you have, Shabbos, kosher food, you have all these things that you have to give up your country club, your pepperoni pizza. Yeah? And if you're and that may be too much for you, and so you don't want it. You want to hang on to your lie, right? That hang on to the falsehood that the king isn't really there, right? So I don't know if this I don't know. It doesn't speak to me so much. This statement that it's because we would have our bodily urges that would stop us from acknowledging the truth. I don't feel so strongly. I could be wrong. That the issue with people out there these days, who don't believe in God or who go through ups and downs or fight against, I don't believe it's because they want to keep eating cheeseburgers.
I think.
I don't think that's it, right? But I think there's a much bigger thing over here, right? And that is that there are other facets of our personal makeup that we may have to give up if we grow and if we change, right? There may be certain things that I'm not ready to give up, and that if I start moving in that direction, I have to let go.
First, you have to acknowledge.
I'm gonna have to acknowledge difficult things about myself, and I'm gonna have to say, I have to. If I'm gonna really do this, I have to let go of my anger. I have to let go of my jealousy. I have to let go of my security that I have with a certain group of friends or certain people. I have to acknowledge that I'm moving to a new place, and I have to, maybe I'm gonna, I know sometimes people, they want to move to a neighborhood where there's more, where they can be. If a person's becoming religious, they want to move to a neighborhood where they can walk to shul, they can be connected with the community, right? Oh, but I gotta leave now the place where I was, which had a certain status, a certain comfortability, right? It had a certain, or I'm going to be known now as a person who lives in that religious area. I'm losing part of my former identity. People are going to think, we have to give up these things. There's for sure things that we know we have to give up that cause us to hold on to whatever we have to hold on to, right? There's other ways that it works also. And then he brings up this point, what he calls reverse emuna. You hear this? Heresy can be termed reverse emuna. since the heretic believes his own heretical idolatry. So, he says, someone cannot prove that there is no God. Yet one resists the concept of God because acknowledging God and the Torah is obligatory. So, heresy, meaning heresy, it's I don't like his words here, right? But meaning that to stay the Chochom and to not give in, to not say that, yeah, okay, I see there's a king, I see there's a better way, right? He cannot handle the fact that he's been wrong all this time.
Also, it's a control issue.
He can't handle the fact that some people are better than him. This has been his MO for the whole time. He cannot handle that there's one person who knows more than him. There's one person who's better than him. There's one, right? Remember all the stories with the ring that he made and it had one flaw, he couldn't take it. Right? When he was a doctor and he made a diagnosis and someone else took the credit for it, he lost his mind. He couldn't handle it. Right? He hears that there's a Baal Shem who's healing people. Right? A tzaddik who's healing people, and he's a doctor. People are lining up to him to be healed. He could be better than me at this. He can't take it. So now he's here, right? And if he is now going to acknowledge, right, that the Tom is right and he's wrong, even though it's very clear and plain to everybody, he now has to admit that everything he's done up till now has been wrong. He has to admit that he has an ego problem. He has to look inside now and deal with his ego, with his what's it called? The fact that he can never be happy anywhere. He has to pride. He has to confront these painful, difficult things. This is what I'm talking about, right? And that, for him, he's not doing it. He can't do it, right? Mashen Ken, as we said, someone of tamimus, of simplicity, of humility, right? Can, anytime something happens, they're not looking at being angry at the other person. They're because that you can never control. Other people we can't control or fix, right?
No control.
Right. We can try. We can't fix everybody. We can't save everybody. We can't fix everybody. So what can I do? I can look to my own humility. I can look to my own tamimus, right? And I can say, okay, what can I learn? That person, I don't know what to do with them. But how did I react? How am I involved? Where am I facing my own shortcomings over here? Oh, now I can say, with everything we said, I can say, Baruch Hashem, I'm so happy that this happened right now. Why? Because it's shown me something that I can grow. It's shown me something that I can fix. And now, because of that, I'll be able to move closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'll be able to be a better person. And if this didn't happen, I would not have confronted this. And if I wouldn't have admitted it and had the humility to say, oh, I see, I have a problem here too, I could not grow. Right? So this is exactly what we're saying is the difference between these two over here. It's so simple and so important. Right? These last few things that we said over here, these 2 points, are actually, like, it's funny how they're written into the story, but they are simplicity. This is simplicity. The first one was, if you remember, it's not a contradiction to be happy where I am and to still want to grow and change. Those two things do not contradict one another whatsoever. I want to grow, I want to change, but today is the best day yet. I'm very happy here today, right? Not a contradiction. That's the first aspect of simplicity for today. And the second one is that whatever things I experience that feel at first maybe like an attack or maybe like a, what was the other word? An attack or a confrontation or I feel like, like it's against me, I don't need to be upset. I can just say, okay, thank you Hashem, you're showing me something, it's bothering me, I can see there's something that I need to work on. You're giving me a new assignment today. You're showing me something, a way that I can become closer to you. You just drew me a map, Hashem. Thank you for drawing me a map about how I can grow and change. Right? But I can only do that when I realize that everything is a message from Hashem to me. It's not about that other person. It's a message to me. This is like, I know we've spoken about this 1,000 times, right? But this is so simple and so important. And this is at the end of the story. This is like big stuff over here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, 2 more points from Avarish before we move on. We actually, I don't know how far we'll make it to Rivki this week, but
Start the next
that's okay. What?
We can start the next one.
Yeah, we'll see. The simple one was very upset about the issue of the king, that this man denied the king's existence. Right? So, he says over here, this is the first time we read about the simple one being upset about anything. You remember him, right? His wife would serve him old bread and unfiltered water. And what did he say? Oh, steak. It tastes like steak. It's amazing. Oh, water. Oh, it's like whatever. I don't remember what it was. It's like
Beer.
It's like cherry.
Like ice wine.
Cherry Dr. Pepper. It's amazing. Ice wine. It's like ice wine. Good one. Amazing, right? He was always happy. He's always been happy with everything.
Right.
Right? So, what's the story with him being upset right now? What's the story with him being upset? So, I'll tell you, I'm struggling a little bit with
It
this.
takes a lot for him to be upset.
For sure.
Since he sees the guy he's so grown.
So, it's interesting. I don't know if we're gonna how we understand the word upset the way Rabbi Nachman wrote it here. But I'll tell you what we do see over here is that he spent his whole life pursuing truth and growing. And he's gotten to such a point that he has seen the king. So let's move out of the mashal into the nimshal. He's reached such a level of spirituality. He's seen something. He's become like a tzaddik. He's seen something very, very deep. So he is connected, you know. There's certain aspects of emunah that are not something that you can learn by reading a book. And it's not something that you can teach, right? It's something that you can only experience from prolonged spiritual growth and getting to a new place, a higher place of spiritual existence. From that vantage point, you see something spiritually, right, of truth. And you see you're connected to something deeper to an extent where there's no questions anymore. And you're not looking for answers, you're not looking for proofs. You're beyond that. Because you reached a new level of spiritual height and closeness to Hashem. Right? So from that place, he hears this guy with stupid ideas claiming that there's no king. And saying, how do you know it's the king? You really said? And he's like, oh, come on. I've been growing my whole life. I've been working and building, and I've gotten to a place where I know. I've experienced it. Right? And now, to hear that, this is upsetting to him. It's like, you could have been here with me. You could have been here with me. Yeah. So that's where he's at over here. So we'll move on one more little bit to the next point before we move over to the other sefer, to Rav Kilak's commentary. So the next thing that happens is in the midst of this, someone came in and announced the Azazel has sent for the two of you. The Azazel is like the Satan, is like the devil. He translates it into the Yiddish, the Taivel, the devil, the Satan. Right, the big guy in the evil forces, whatever that is, has sent for you two. This is what happens in the middle of this. So the first question is, before we'll start talking about this next week. But the first question is that we can deal with today is why is the Satan, the devil, the Taivel, this negative spiritual force now, sending for the two of them? Why is he sending for the Tam? Why is he not just going to grab the Chochom and pull him into Gehenna, whatever he's supposed to do? Why is he taking the Tam? Right? Good question, no? Good question.
Wake him? I don't know.
What?
Wasn't able to wake him?
Not bad. That's an interesting point. Mm-hmm. Let's think about that. So Rav Arish's answer is that basically he says like this. Rabbi Nachman writes that the devil sent for both of the men, the clever one and the simple one. We see how the simple one endangered himself by speaking to the clever one. An old expression says that if a bridegroom dressed in his finest walks through a cowshed, he'll still come out smelling like manure. Right? So in other words, he's pointing out something here, which is also an important thing to think about for all of us. But, you know, the Chochom, the Tam, shows, Kivak speaks about this, shows his Rachmanis. And he shows his kindness. Right? He could have given this guy a few dollars, a piece of bread, and some ratty clothes, and said, "Off with you. You know what? I've gone way beyond you. You're done over here." But he doesn't do that. He's compassionate, and he's kind, and he's giving, and he tries to help the Chochom who's so messed up over here, right? And it's noble. And it's good, and it's what he's supposed to do. But you know what? That noble pursuit does not come without a cost. Right? And if you're connected to people who if you're trying to help people who are in bad shape and who are doing bad things, it's noble and it's good. And you should do it. But it's going to have an effect on you. It's going to have an effect on you. You're going to start smelling a little bit like manure, right? And so it's one of those things though that we have to think about. What do we have to think about? We have to think about what can I do, right? Where can I help? To what extent can I help? And also, I have to know when to pull back. When is it going to be too much for me? I'm not talking about, of course we have to know when to pull back and allow a person to have their own growth and their own thoughts and to not crowd them, for sure. That's one thing. But this is going back on me as a giver. I have to know when is it going to be too much for me? And when is it going to pull me down? Right? And there's a reason why the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos that you have to stay away from a shachin ra, a evil neighbor, a bad neighbor. Why? So live next to them. Don't talk to them. Build a nice fence. Zeu. What's wrong? They're telling us that there's a spiritual effect on us when we're connected to people who are I have a personal example. I obviously won't say who, but I know one person in particular who is so negative. I've talked about this person before. So negative. I promise none of you guys know this person. Don't worry. Don't try to think who it is. Right? Someone who is so negative, like no matter what. And I've tried so many times. I still try, like regularly, to inject something to try and put this person on a positive way of thinking about their life. And sometimes I get them, I hold on to them for 5 minutes. I'm like, yeah, I guess this isn't bad. I guess this is it. And then I was like, oh, let's try to keep that mindset, positive mindset. And then it's like a switch flips. You're like, yeah, but really it's not good. And this and this and this and that and that and that.
Deep-rooted.
It's gone. It's deep-rooted, yeah.
Can't solve it.
And if it's a person, one of the things that he says in another part over here is that also as a person gets older, it's even harder to change spiritually, especially spiritually. It's very hard to change, right? So I tried. I try over here with this person, but this person, I'll tell you, has almost nobody else in the world who can still talk to them on a regular basis.
Oh my.
And this person's children don't talk to them, and like they're alone completely. And why? Because you can't handle it. People cannot take it. It's so draining and it pulls a person down to such an extent. You can't take it. So what has happened is people have completely abandoned this person. What would have been a better thing to do would be to set some boundaries and say, you know what, I'm going to try to interact with this person, maybe as the child, and I know that if I approach it in this way, I'm going to get pulled down, I'm going to lose it, and then it's going to have a negative outcome. I know that it has to be only a certain amount of time, certain days. I know that I'll tell them, you know what, if you start talking like this, I'm gonna have to hang up. Wouldn't it be better that you make it in a way that you thought, I know that this is gonna have an effect on me. It's gonna pull me down. So I have to do it in a way that I can continue this chesed, I can continue this kindness for a long period of time, right? Thought out in this way. And usually I find, I know there was a person a person with an interesting story, who called me almost every single week. Can I stay with you for Shabbos? Can I stay with you for Shabbos? Can I stay with you for Shabbos? And nothing wrong with asking, but this person, whatever, had some negative effects on the people around him and maybe on the family. So I said to the person, listen, if you're going to come here, we have to make some rules, because I want to continue to have you. And if we don't make these rules, then it's not going to work. And then we won't be able to come at all. So there were some rules, like, whatever. I don't need to go into the details. And you know what? This person, I've done this with a few different people, they appreciated it. Because I said to them, I want you to come. And if it's going to work, we're going to have to do it in a way that it's going to work. And they were happy, and because what do most people do? They have them over a few times, and they're like, oh, sorry, they don't answer the phone anymore. Right? We're not going to have this person anymore. So just be like the Tom. Step back. Don't get upset. Don't get ego. Just be humble and say, it's a powerful trait also that he's engaging in right here. There's one that I didn't even think about until now, which is really important. And that is the ability to confront a difficult situation, as opposed to pushing it off. Right? You have things that are bothering you. You're worried about bills. You're worried about, I don't know, whatever people are worried about, timelines and things. And I got to talk to this person. I got to talk to this person. And and because of that, you keep letting the email go down in your thing, right? You keep letting the bill collectors call. You don't answer it, right? If you take the time to address it, and you're not afraid. Don't be afraid. You just confront it. Talk about it. You can fix it, right? So most people don't want to broach the subject with this guy, right? They don't want to broach the subject with the other guy we were talking about, because they're afraid of having that confrontation. So what happens? They just have to cut off the relationship. It's done. Just don't be afraid. Have the conversation. I really want to have you, but it's difficult in this way. I really want to help you. I really want to have a relationship with you. This children could say to their parent, but it's hard for me in this way, and talk about it and set boundaries and make it work. Don't be afraid to confront it. Why are we afraid to confront it? Because we don't have emunah. That's why.